So I have this adorable vintage wooden office chair that I just cannot part with. And a couple years ago, the wheel broke and I have not been able to find a replacement or a way to change the wheel out without further damaging the chair. So I was not willing to give this up without at least trying to come up with some sort of solution to fix the wheel. I'd seen these hacks on YouTube where people were using cotton and super glue and baking soda and super glue to make repairs. So I decided I'm going to give this a try, and I started with the cotton and super glue thinking it would be easier to actually shape into something round layer by layer. However, it just wasn't working. For some reason, the cotton wasn't getting hard. Even after, 5 minutes, I just gave up after the first little strip of cotton and just moved on to the baking soda. And that method actually just, ended up working better for the whole project. It probably required more shaping at the end than the cotton would have had it worked, but the cotton just didn't work for me. So I was using masking tape to make mini forms to help build up little sections at a time, and then just take it off to see how it turned out as I was going. And I would change the masking tape as I worked to fit the shapes that I needed to fill. And then anytime there were grooves, I would just hold the wheel in a position that could fill the grooves by pouring it in there when I didn't even need the tape. So eventually the wheel just started kind of taking shape as I worked. I got to a spot where I needed to make it round. So this is how I positioned the tape. I just wrapped the tape around the wheel to finish the shape off, and then put another section of tape and just pieced it together underneath to hold it in so I could pour baking soda down without it falling out. So I worked doing small layers at a time. I would do a small layer of baking soda and then add a small layer of glue. And layer by layer, I just let it dry a little bit and then apply a little more baking soda and a little more glue. So a couple things that I learned along the way is using a straw is perfect for pouring baking soda in a really small crevice, and then tapping it between layers, like before pouring the glue. If you tap whatever you're working on, it'll help distribute the baking soda down into whatever you're trying to fill before you pour the glue. So that also helps to just fill in any voids along the way. The times that I've done too much baking soda at once instead of going in small layers, what happens is there ends up being pits and holes because it didn't get saturated all the way through to the bottom of the baking soda before the glue dried. So working in layers kind of helps fill in the gaps better to where you don't end up with as many pits. It's just more efficient to work in layers because you have less gaps and pits and holes to fill at the end whenever you're done. The glue that I used here was actually a thicker viscosity than regular super glue, and I had a lot more control. I started off using regular super glue, but it was just really runny and would get kind of in more places than I wanted it to. So I felt like I had more control over using a medium viscosity glue. So I know this is not looking much like a round wheel at the moment, but I feel like it's taken on enough shape that I can take the tape off to kind of see what it looks like, because I can tell by the top that it's probably got a few gaps in it and stuff, but I just want to take the tape off, and plus because I'm impatient, I just want to see what it looks like. And here it is. No, it's not a wheel yet, but it's progress. So at this point, since I feel like it's getting kind of close to being a wheel, I'm going to spin it around its axle, if that's what it's called here, every couple minutes or so, just to make sure it can still fit and spin all the way around without getting caught on the sides right there. I know it's kind of boring to watch, so just remember it's layer by layer. Fill it in with baking soda and tap, 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 and then do your glue, and then wait a couple seconds, and then just repeat. So as I got close to the outer edge of the wheel, I started using a toothpick to kind of try and level off any lumps so I could still spin the wheel and not have to work on making the sides fit through. So it's almost time for the big reveal. Once this part dries on the outside edge, I'm going to take the tape off and see how well the repaired portion of the wheel lines up with the other part. So here's how it looks. It is not perfect, but all I did is dust a little bit more baking soda in the grooves to level up the rest of the curve out. I started off using a metal file to get the really chunky stuff. And once I felt I was getting close to it fitting all the way around, I switched to a nail file just so I could be more precise and not possibly over file the edges or chip it along the way. So when it came to perfecting the shape in certain areas, I would alternate between the metal file and the nail file as needed, depending on how aggressive something needed to be taken care of. For this part, a nail file was not aggressive enough, so I went back to the metal file for this area, but only because I could really see what I'm doing. So now I thought it was time to perform my first sit-down test to see how it rolls. And this is the result. It pretty much just rolls until it hits the repaired spot and then it gets stuck again. So it still needs some fine-tuning, and that's what I'm gonna do. There's really like no particular way to do this, just I got creative and went in every direction, frontwards, backwards, left, right, just to try and smooth it out and make it as even as possible because it looked like an egg. I don't know if you can really tell in the video, but whenever I would spin the wheel real fast, it was definitely oval more than round. So another method that helped me get a more round shape, if you have an extra set of hands, like I was able to slide a strip of sandpaper around the wheel kind of quick to get a more rounded shape when somebody held it. So if that's an option, or if there's a way to clamp the wheel down without it getting in the way, that was another way that kind of helped with the sanding process. Okay, and I have finally reached the point where it rolls 90% of the time. It looks like it rolls really perfect in one direction, but in another direction, it kind of tends to hang up. But it was really in just a matter of minutes at this point before it was rolling in both directions. The only disappointment that I have is that I waited so long to actually try it.